Juliet Charlie Foxtrot. Mike 0 Juliet Charlie Foxtrot, calling 40.
Mike 0 Juliet Charlie Foxtrot, Mike Whiskey 0 Zulu Uniform Sierra.
Okay, Mike Whiskey 0 ending Sierra. Sorry, old chap, I just did not, I didn't catch the middle bit. My pen was going slower than my brain. Mike 0 Juliet Charlie Foxtrot, coming back to you. Thank you for taking the call. The name this end is Mark, Mike Alpha Romeo Kilo, and I'm down in Sidcup in Kent. Back to you, the Mike Whiskey 0 ending Sierra. Back to you, old chap.
Hi Mark, you're 5'9" plus 10 here. I'll have to turn the speaker off. I got a bit of feedback coming from another speaker. Hopefully it doesn't come up and spoil the audio a little bit. The call sign is Mike Whiskey 0 Zulu Uniform Sierra. The name's Terry Tango Echo Romeo Yankee. Location is in North Wales. I'm your 5'9" plus 10. Heard you call a few times. So I just moved off very quickly, tuned up, and thought I'd let you know you're getting out really well. 5'9" plus 10 here in a little town called Ruthin in North Wales. Back to you, Mark.
Yeah, MW0 ZUS M0 JCF returning. Terry, absolute pleasure to speak to you. I heard the tuning signal, even though you was off to the side. You know, you were 5'9" plus 20 on the tuning signal, and I heard it a few times, and I thought, oh well, there's a Continental just tuning up on top of me, and because I mean it happens, doesn't it? And you know, it's not a problem. I used to complain about tuning signals, but to be honest, you know, people move all over the place to tune up slightly, and then you know, they come back to you, but there's always going to be somebody on a frequency you choose, whether you're next door or just up the road or whatever, so it's not a problem, mate. But you're 5'9" plus 10 with some RF attenuation on. I think it's a 10 dB attenuator, so you're going to be 5'9" plus 20. I will actually turn it off on on your next over, but just to let you know, yeah, Sidcup in Kent, so about 15 miles southeast of the centre of London. I'm sure you know Sidcup in Kent, and you're going to ask me, do I know Doug G6INU? Because just about everybody does when I say Sidcup. But the radio I'm using today, Terry, is an old Trio TS520S, an old analogue hybrid, running about, just checking the power meter now, so I suppose about 125 watts into a 90-foot long wire, which is about 25 feet above the ground. It's actually an inverted U shape. Now, the major part of that 90 feet is horizontal over the ground, and then I've got a vertical section at each end. One end comes down to the 9-to-1 unun, which is about 7 feet off the ground, and then the coax comes into the garage where I've got all my heavyweight radios, and then the other end, it was just a case of let's give some extra length. I dropped it down. It's attached to what's left of a tree at the end of the garden. Every year I chop the top off, and every year it comes back with a vengeance. But yeah, it comes down vertical at that end. So that's the technical side of things this end, Terry. MW0 ZUS M0 JCF.
Lovely, that is, Mark. Oh, really, really nice to hear you using the 520. You know what? It sounds absolutely spot on. I wouldn't have thought it was 520. I'm a bit of a fan of the old Kenwoods here. I've had quite a few in the time. Right next to this radio is an old Icon Pro 2, 756 Pro 2, I think that's the number. Yeah, it is, it's one. And right next to it is my old TS830S. But I've also got a TS520SP and also a TS520S and a TS520SE. The SE has been fully refurbed from scratch, and they're all lovely, lovely radios. I really love valve gear. A good friend of mine gave me a 520S. I think it was, yes, that's it. I passed it on to a well-deserving amateur to fix up, really, and I learned more about radio fixing that old 520 SE, which had numerous amount of faults on it. But I learned more fixing that up about radio. Then I did studying for the full exam to get the MW0. So I really, really love the radios. I've had a look at the old Yaesu, the 101s, but to be honest, compared to the Kenwoods and the Trios, I don't know. It's a bit of a rat's nest going on there, and you have to have extender boards, etc., to work on. You don't need any of that kind of stuff with the 520, 530s, etc. I've had a couple of 820Ss. One was an absolute superb radio, and one was, a problem which is still occurring. I give it to a friend of mine who wanted a winter project, and he's very, very up on radio, got all the test gear and everything, but he still couldn't solve it. So that's been moved on to somebody else who wants a project. I think basically every single solder joint really, really needs resoldering on it, and that'll probably sort it out. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. I'm sorry for the waffle, but I really am a big fan of the old Trio and Kenwoods with the old 6146Bs. That's it. Yeah, lovely. Back to you, Mark. Yeah, as I said, you're 5'9 plus 10 here. Really, really doing well. 125 watts. I'm intrigued to ask how many milliamps have you got on the plates there when you loaded it up, Mark? Back to you.
Okay, yeah, I'll check that in just a second. But I'll ask. I'll answer all of not so much your questions, but your statements that you made. This is the first old hybrid that I've owned recently. Now, I got my M6 in 2017. It was around about I think it was October, November 2017. So you can see I went through the licensing system quite quick, because I've had my M0 over 2 years now, about getting on for 2.5 years maybe. But I actually failed the RAE in 1978. So you can see I'll go back a bit. And back then, you know, any old radio, if it had valves, transistors, didn't matter. I would have it in my inverted commas shack, i.e. the bedroom, and I was a very, very keen shortwave listener, and a crystal set builder, and a TRF builder. Regens is what I'm really into even now. And I went through all the big heavyweights like B40D, CR100, Reception Set 206. That was a beast. That one really did kill me, even as a teenager. An AR88, I've had a couple of them, and a few other slightly what would have been in the day, you know, modern rigs. But yeah, Kenwood, I've always been a fan of. And do you know what? I always wanted a TS830, but I just couldn't afford them back in the day. So, you know, what happened was, you know, I've been through, since I got my license, I've been through a few Kenwoods, you know, the TS450S, and I've currently got a TS590S, which really only gets used on 60 meters. So that's the most modern one. I've got an FT817. I've got some Chinese, those latest Chinese made 8-band micro SDX transceivers. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's a Class C output and SDR receiver, and the performance is really quite remarkable once you get them set up okay, bearing in mind, you know, it's an 8-band all mode transceiver that fits in the palm of your hand and costs £100 plus obviously import duty, etc. I think I paid a maximum of about 125 quid for it, including import duty and postage from China. A lot of people have had trouble with them, but I think the problem there is they just don't set things up properly. And you got to remember, they are a QRP radio. You know, they're designed for like 3, 4, 5 watts. You know, and people are trying to screw 8 watts out of them, and you think, but why? You know, half. You know, like it's a 3 dB gain over what they're designed really to do, which is half an S point. Why you know, like hammering it to death? There's a lot more to these little radios. You know, the kudos there is having your long distance one's contacts or any contacts on them. They're not a classic DX machine. They are what they are. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, aren't I? So anyway, no, this TS520S I got about a year ago now. It did have some problems, and it did have a few a few issues with the AGC, which is still there. The AGC can actually switch itself on and off every now and again. I do have the RF attenuator in. I think there's just with it off, there is a little bit too much, again. But that could be looked at. But there was a problem with a relay, a switching relay, and there was a problem with the ALC as well. Plate current, I think I'm running about 200 milliamps when I was tuning up on CW. Now, I haven't tuned up today. This was probably 2 days ago, and it was sitting around 200 milliamps, which is probably a little bit over the top. But I do have 5 spare valves. The 6146Bs. I've got 5 of them spare. Not that I want to go ruining valves for the sake of it, but on a tune-up, I can see generally on a tone, I can see sort of anything up to about 160 watts with about 200 milliamps plate current. I could check that for you now. I could switch to CW and just observe, but I don't know if you're really that interested. We can do that. That's not a problem at all. And as for other old radios, it's funny you mentioned the 101. I've actually bought just before Christmas a boxed mint condition FT101ZD Mark III with the FM board fitted. Somebody's actually going to give me an AM board. I'm not particularly fussed about the FM board. I probably wouldn't use this rig on 29 megahertz anyway. I'd say it's a lovely radio. I've been using it since the beginning of December up until last week, where I've decided the TS520 wasn't getting a look in. So, I do own the FT101ZD. Once again, it was one of those radios back in the 80s and 90s. I always wanted an FT101 because everyone had one, I think. It wasn't really... the technical side that really got me. It was the fact that everyone had one and everyone raved about them. Of course, I wasn't licensed back then, so I was being a naughty boy, and that it would have been used for naughty boy stuff, I'm sure. The other radio that I got sitting on top of the TS520 at the moment is an old Swan 350 all-valve SSB rig. That one needs a power supply. Now, I have got the components for the power supply, so I need to build the power supply for it, but it's generally quite a clean radio. It's in quite good condition, considering once again it's from the mid to late 60s and probably hasn't been used for donkey's years. And then next to that, I've got a pair of summer camps. I've got an FR100B and an FL100B, a transmitter receiver pair, and they really are a restoration project. They both power up, but that is it. They power up, lights come on, and that is it. I mean, they're going to need some serious strip down recap, and I was a bit of a maniac, really, sort of just plugging them in and switching them on. I didn't even have them on the Variac, which was a bit silly. But there you go. I think there's some information there for you to chew over, and I may well have rabbited too long. Who knows? Back to you there, MW0ZUS. This is M0 JCF.
I don't apologise at all, Mark. It's a bit of a passion of mine, really. Absolutely great. I first got interested in it in one of my first radio rallies, and I came across a 520. 530. I thought, wow, that really does look a real radio. Didn't even know it had valves in. I tuned too long, waited for it, and basically done a deal, had a bit of a walk and thought about it, went back to buy it, and somebody had it, so that was gone. I started the search for them. The A30 was actually £200 dearer in the very early 80s than the 530. And to be honest, the only extra thing you've got on the 820 is you've got a bit of IS shift and notch. You've got a variable valve, variable band tuning and the tone. And to be honest, you haven't got that much extra really for £200. And £200 in the early 80s was a lot of money. It's still a lot of money today. It was a lot more then. So a lot of people went for 530s. The 530 SP I've got is a year one owner. I'm the second owner. And he actually wanted an 830. And but he couldn't afford it. He was £200 odd short. So he opted for the 530, which is essentially exactly the same radio. You just haven't got the VVT tone and you haven't got the IR shift. The SPs came out with notch, but that's basically just a switch, not a variable knob on it. But yeah, they're brilliant radios. You said you were on a 520, that's brilliant. It reminds me, I'll have to get my 520. They do like a bit of faults now and again. It's not good to leave them much more than 6 months, really. Keep the electrolytics quite happy. The 520, bar the ATU, the only thing I don't like about the old Trios and the old Kenwoods is the ATUs. They're not very good. If they had some reduction gear in with the tuning, they would have been much, much better. But basically, I've got the 520. I've got the very elusive DG1, which is the frequency display module that you can put on top. I've got the SP520 speaker. And what else have I got? Yeah, that's about it, really. I think that's it, yeah. I've got the DSC 230 stuffed on top of the Trio 830, which tightens up the frequency a little bit. You don't have to wait so long for it to warm up the top module they actually created for, I think, the TS 130, and then found out that it worked with the 830, so it's a very, very nice addition. The DG1 fits really well with the 520. It does give you a nice frequency display. And these are self modules, they just sit on the top. So I'm very lucky to have one of them. A good friend of mine was a hybrid radio fan, and I had a lot of my equipment from him. He had 27 Kenwoods and Trios at one point. So he's whittled down his collection a little bit. Yeah, what else? The Swan 330. Well, you know what? I almost bought one. There was a local shop that had one. Again, I hummed and hawed too long. I went back there the next weekend. It had gone, which is sad for me, really. The Swans are an absolute classic. G6INU, Doug. Yeah. I think, as you say, everybody knows Doug. I haven't spoken to him for such a long time. I haven't, but hopefully now. I mean, now 40 metres is starting to live again. I mean, for 40 metres to be active at this time of night, it's a really, really good sign. Incidentally, cycle 25 is going to be better than they predicted. There was a termination event that happened. Cycle 24 really, really didn't go away. And cycle 25 was hampered by the old cycle. And there was a massive explosion on the sun. Not too sure when. It wasn't too long ago. And basically ended cycle 24. So 25 can get on with its thing now. And the predictions have gone really higher than what they first predicted. So we can look forward to some nice communication. When I came onto the air, I too was an SWL. I had an old FRG 100 Yaesu, Frog 100. And thought, this is brilliant. And that's what egged me on to get the MW6. I had MW6 for about a month and then went to 2W. Got that, and then I just kind of sat back for about a year or so, something like that, and I got pushed into doing the full one. Absolutely terrified because I thought I'd fail, but I didn't, and I don't know why, because I didn't study very long. It was a fluke. On the valves, always great to have them. Really, really good. I bought a pair of valves once a few years ago. They were wrapped up in old newspaper. And when I unwrapped them, I knew that this newspaper had been wrapped around these valves since they were printed. The date on the newspaper was 1958. And I reckon that they were wrapped up in these newspapers in 1958. And they still work. They were great. RCAs. If ever you use RCA valves, depending on what year they came from, you'll find that if you actually set the idle bios at 60 MA, what they recommend, they may sizzle a little bit on full output. Reduce them to around 50, 52, 55 maybe, and they'll work fine. They have the RCA 6146, that's it. Yes, some have slightly thinner materials on the inside of the valve than the others. The RCAs in particular, that's what I found. So just reduce the idle bias down a little bit, and they'll be great if you hear them fizzing. I'm very obviously you want a dummy load. The best way to tune up the radio, I don't want to tell you to suck eggs, but it's on a dummy load. I'm very 200 is not over stressing the valves at all. Their sweet spot is 225 milliamps. I tend to tune the old radios up to about 210, 220, not to stress them too much. And generally you'll see about 90 to 100 watts. For you to get 125 watts, it sounds like it's going 250 milliamps or more. But it'll be interesting there if you put it onto CW tone. Pop it onto have you got a switch onto the dummy load if you have, and see what the milliamps are showing on the plate. If you go onto the IP on the meter, that'll show you the true milliamps. 125 sounds a little bit too much, really, for the 26146Bs. They'll do it, but if you want to look after them, just plate them up to 210, 220, 225 maximum, really, on the IP, on the plate. What else? I'm sure there's something else, but I've waffled on a little bit. I'll hand it over to you, Mark, and apologise for going on too much, but old radios are just really exciting. M0JCF, MW0ZUS.
Yeah, MW0ZUS, M0JCF, and just looking at the power meter, and because I've got it set to average as well, it's not PEP, and it's reading that. So let's see if I just take it off there. Okay, and on the voice peaks, you know, the highest it's going is about 70 to 90 watts, but I always have it on the average. Okay, just bear with me, just QRX 1 second, and I'll just I've set it to IP. I'm just going to set it to CW and just key up. This is into the antenna, it's not into the dummy load. I haven't got the dummy load connected. Just stand by a second. Yeah, you're totally correct. Plate current is around 260.
Yeah, got you, Mark. 40's starting to drop, but I can still hear you fine. Yeah, you're stressing a little bit too much. I think you said 260 milliamps, really, for the 520. They recommend 225, the sweet spot, but really I kind of tune mine up to about 210, 220 max. And it'll just look after the valve a little bit more, Mark. Back to you. I don't want to lose you. What I would do is get an antenna switch so you can go from dummy load to your aerial at a flick of the switch. Very handy. Back to you, Mark.
Yeah, MW0ZUS, M0JCF returning. Yeah, actually my tuner, I've got the manual tuner, it does have a 2 position, so I could put the dummy load on the other position. I suppose what it is I've been lazy because I've been using the FT101 for a while, and I only came back to this the other day. My quiescent current is, my standby current is 60 milliamps. I set that up, probably the end of last summer, but autumn time was when I checked that. And it was 60 milliamps because I went through the manual on that. I think really this time round it's more of a case of I was just lazy with the tuning, and I've been using this radio on 40 meters pretty much the last couple of weeks, and I just hadn't got round to tuning. But I feel with SSB I can get away with it. You know, if I was putting out a continuous tone, I mean I know we can't on these, days, if it was AM or something, then you know, I'd be a bit more cautious with a continuous carrier. But with SSB, so long as I mean, I'm saying so long as I keep the overs short, as you can tell, I haven't. It's yeah, but I will address that, and you're probably right. Peaking at around 100 watts would probably be a lot kinder to it. And no, the valves, the spares that I've got, unfortunately, are not RCA valves. I don't even know what make they are. They're all boxed in just white boxes. I need to take them out of the box, but I'm pretty sure they're not. One of them may be, but four of them, I'm pretty sure aren't. Your signal with no RF attenuation, still 5 and 9 plus 20, and with RF attenuation between 5 and 9, 5 and 9 plus 10. Terry, an absolute pleasure to speak to you. And as I say, if you're losing me and the skip's going longer, then I'll wrap it up now as well, because I'm going to go and pick up my youngest daughter from the station in a short while. So I'll hand it over to you for any finals, but it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Been really great talking to a fellow Trio Kenwood fan. And just as a passing note, I actually bought today a TS700, so a 2-meter multi-mode analog radio, and I actually paid for that not 2 hours ago, so I'm just waiting for that to arrive in the post, and as and when it does, I'll have a lot of fun. I do use 2 meters multi-mode radios. I've got a TR 9000, a TR 751, yeah, 751E, and a few other Kenwoods as well, but I won't dwell on it now. We'll save that for another day. MW0ZUS M0JCF wishing you 73. Over to you, Terry.
Yes, I got all that, Mark, but yeah, I think 40's starting to drop now, which is, I don't know. I'd enjoy to talk to you a bit more on this subject, because it's great. It really is good. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, well, if you're still getting me fine, basically, you don't need a lot of test equipment to check if the radio's well. Basically, on your meter, you've got the IP, RF, comp, and HV. Switch it on to HV, key up, you just put in tune mode, basically, or just not say anything, and it'll give you the voltage from the high voltage capacitors. You should be seeing nigh on 900. Put it into your dummy load or your area, let you tuned up, etc., and give it a whistle. If it drops below 850 watts, you should be looking at getting some capacitors, HV, they're 2 times 450 or 500, 450s I think they are. What I'll do is I'll look up your call sign, Mark, and I'll shoot you an email. I presume you're on QRZ, right to you, Mark?
Yeah, you can find me on QRZ, and the email address is there, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I love talking to anyone who's got the same interests as me, so I'll always correspond with you know, an email, and if I'm at home, then I'm always very, very happy to set up a sked and to go through settings and that. You know, it's as I say, it's more a case of I've just been lazy this time around, but yeah, it's great to know. I wasn't too sure on the voltage settings, but I suppose I could break out the manual and read it properly. Okay, Terry, appreciate that. Please do shoot me an email, and I say we'll set up a sked on 40 meters when we're both free. And I know the mornings have been absolutely stonking on 40 meters after the sun has come up, so maybe that's a good time. But yeah, definitely the skip's going longer now. The sun has set, the delay is collapsing, and the skip's going longer. So I wish you very best 73, Terry, and look forward to the next time. Where are we? MW0ZUS M0JCF.
Oh, that's lovely, Mike. Yeah, I will shoot you an email when you set up a sked. We have a little group on Skype, and you can join us if you wish. There's quite a lot of knowledgeable people on it, etc. And you'll have some fun on there. And of course, if we're having a sked or anything, you'll be able to know about it and join in. Okay, Mark, I know you've got to pick up your daughter. I had an absolute pleasure talking to you. Absolutely great. I'll shoot you an email, and we will talk more about this beautiful radio. Absolutely superb. 7-3, Mark. All the very best, and I'll catch you soon. So this is M0JCF. This is Mike Whiskey 0, Zulu Uniform Sierra, now going QRT. Thank you, Mark. I'll be in touch. 73 and all the very best from North Wales.
Yeah, 73, and good luck, old chap, and thank you again for all the advice. Always appreciated. Never sucking eggs this end, mate. Always learning. This is Mike 0, Juliet, Charlie Foxtrot going QRT. This frequency is clear for use. This frequency is clear for use.
Thank you, Mark. All the learning never stops. Never stops. Thank you very much. I'll be in touch. 73, Mark, and all the very best.